Let's Science is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
3, 2, 1.
We live in a universe of scientific wonders.
Every day, scientists are inching towards breakthroughs which can change our lives.
We're playing our small part in sharing these wonders with you.
That's why today is a fine day for science.
So let's science.
So, Lino, for today's science topic, we're doing it without Caroline. However, we do have the next best thing. I'm very excited about this. For this science topic, we have the CEO of the StarQuest Network, Dom Bettinelli. Dom, how are you?
I am great. Apparently, it's really great to be the next best thing to Caroline. That's a pretty high honor, actually.
There you go. Yep. There we go. Yep.
Those are big shoes to fill, but okay, all right.
Well,
I'm here for this topic, though. So let's.
Oh yeah, that's for this topic. We're all here. That's right. This one comes from the heart, and this is for all of you coffee lovers out there as well.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about the science and chemistry of making that wonderful brew of coffee. But before I do, I actually wanted to ask you both, because we're all coffee drinkers here. What is your favorite type of coffee, your favorite style, and how do you brew it? You know, when you make it yourself. So, Dom, can I start with you? How do you have your coffee? How do you brew it?
Okay, well, I'm gonna make an admission here. I like all coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay.
Cheap donut shop coffee. I pretty much every day brew a Keurig, like the K cup, just for convenience and ease. But I love when I have the time to use the mocha pot, which is the Italian little. It's like it's not a percolator. I got corrected when I called it a percolator. It is definitely not a percolator. But what it does is it's a 2-chamber system where there's water in the bottom. You put it over heat. The heats up the water inside, and it pushes it up through under pressure through the grounds into the top chamber. So it's not an espresso. We'll see why when we talk about it. But it does have that forcing it through the grinds method, which is I really like that. It's got that strong Italian coffee flavor.
Very nice. Very nice. Yes.
Through the coffee grounds. And Lino, how about you? How does you've got a coffee with you right now because it's morning where you are. So how do you make your coffee, Lino?
Oh well, I'm just normal. I just says I'm a coffee pod person at the moment. I'm nearly everything. I like you, Lindsay. Sorry, Dom, but I'm not much of a decaf person.
Oh no,
same here.
Okay. All right, okay. I'll just say this is like I've had decaf one time. I went, really, this is coffee, and I had to. Sorry, but I like all kinds of coffee, but majority of the time is in my. Actually, my wife's right next to me. She's working at the moment, so she can't talk right now. I like my cappuccinos a lot more.
Very nice.
I do. Cappuccinos there. I've had Italian coffee one time at Dom at a friend's place. Actually, it was our brother-in-law. Mother. Yeah, and then she's Italian, and she meant it. OMG. That was nice. I didn't. She may have done it the same as you, Dom, but I didn't know. I was outside talking to everyone. And she goes, "You want still some coffee?" And he goes, "But that's a bad Italian imitation." Sorry,
it's okay. I'll start doing an Australian accent, and that'll be all over.
Everyone can do an Australian accent. Italian is perfect. No, don't want to do that. But yeah, it was like in a small cup, Dom. And I said, "Oh, okay." And I had a little sip. Whoa, the flavor again. Okay. I'm sorry, it was one wasn't enough. I was just bouncing off the walls.
It was so it's a strong one.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I started with capsule coffee. Well, actually, I started with instant coffee a long time ago. I learnt my lesson later, but I started with instant coffee. Graduated to capsule coffee, and the reason for that is because Lino. You and your wife Bernadette for my birthday years and years ago bought me an Aldi coffee machine.
We still got ours. It's still going for some reason. I don't know why.
Let me tell you, that stood the test of time for a decade, and it's still going. I actually gave it to my sister, so she's using it now. But for a decade, I was having Aldi capsule coffee, and I was loving it. It was really good. And because I love coffee so much, I spent maybe a little bit more money than I should have on a fully automatic coffee machine now. So beans in, grinds,
good.
it does the whole thing, and you can choose So now basically I'm the same Dom. I like all styles of coffee, but I tend to be more of a black coffee kind of person now, and maybe if I go to a cafe, I might get a latte, So Caroline tells me I'm a coffee snob. She's probably right. So,
That's the thing, Dom and Lizzie, because when people go from the coffee pods to the actual coffee maker and everything, people call them coffee snobs. And we're like, yes and no. Yes, because you're going into an extra, Dom, and Lizzie, you go to an actual making coffee. And then so, no, because you want to enjoy. You enjoy more the flavors and everything. So, yeah.
And I think we also enjoy the process of brewing it ourselves as well.
That's correct.
Also
That's
part
correct.
of So I have to admit, so there's in my office at my work, we have a coffee machine, like a percolated coffee machine. It passes the water through, filter, etc., and so on. And he also purchased a very small, just budget coffee grinder as well. So we sit in silence and listen to the coffee beans grinding, and we're all like, it's like a meditation. It's like, the sound of freedom. We just feel so happy when we hear it. But there is something joyful about making your own coffee and then enjoying it. So today's science topic then is all about what happens that affects the flavor of our favorite coffees. So we've all experienced buying a coffee from a cafe, from a barista, and usually those are the best tasting kind of coffees, but they're using, $3,000 Australian dollars, coffee machines, coffee machines, yes. And they're doing everything manually right from the start to the very end. And so there's a process in that. And then depending on our coffee machines, our percolators, our automatic machines, our LD capsule machines, all those different things, that it'll affect the taste of our coffee. So the science and chemistry of this is that there are a whole lot of variables that go into the process of making coffee. So, for example, the temperature of our water, the water chemistry, the particle size distribution, the ratio of the water to the coffee, the time we spend brewing, and importantly, the quality of the coffee beans that we purchase as well. I'm sure everyone thinks about this when they make their coffee, but and if you listen to this show, you are going to start thinking about this from now on. And maybe after you listen to this episode, maybe try experimenting, with the variables that you can control to see if you can change the taste of your coffee as well. So just to get into the science a little bit more, there are a whole lot of molecules and acids at play in your coffee bean that you are changing and altering as you brew your coffee. Now, they're already changed and altered because your coffee beans, if you buy them, are roasted, and there are different processes for roasting, and there are different types of beans and so on. So already the flavor is affected by that process. And then what you do to it afterwards also changes it more. So, for example, your coffee beans are full of organic acids, and these control the brightness and the acidity of the taste of your coffee. So this can impact, for example, giving it a tangy, a fruity, or a sour note, especially in beans that have a lighter roast rather than a darker one. The Maillard reaction products, these are the reactions between amino acids and sugars in your coffee beans, and these can create, that nutty or that roasted or that caramel or that chocolatey flavor. And these can include things like melanoidins, which give it its brown color and its body, pyrazines and pyrols. I did practice these words before this episode. And they can add like a toasted aroma or a more earthy kind of flavor. And also streca aldehydes, which contribute floral and savory notes as well. We then have esters, which have to do with the aroma of your compounds, or the aromatic compounds. So they can smell like fruit, flowers, even lollies or candy for our American listeners. But basically, if you've ever picked up, off the shelf a packet of coffee beans, and they've got little where you can smell it, you just give it a squeeze and you smell. This is what hits your nose, is that scent, and makes you immediately want to make coffee. And lastly, the heterocycles. These are the complex ring-shaped molecules with atoms like nitrogen or oxygen, and these affect the flavor, giving it that deep or that roasted or even smoky or spicy kind of taste. So they add the depth and the complexity to the aroma and the taste of your coffee. So guys, Dom, did you realize that there was this much going on in the background of your coffee brew?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I've actually looked into this stuff before because I wanted to make better coffee, and you know, it's there's so much going on. This is one of the things I think I love about coffee over even like teas or other drinks. Coffee it's more like wine in a way, you know, because there's so much that goes into wine, the terroir and the soil and the weather that year. You know, did it rain in June? You know, that sort of thing. And it's the same sort of thing with coffee. What kind of bean is it? Where did it come from? What country? What part of that country? Did it pass through the digestive tract of a little simian? That's a particular kind of coffee.
It is true though. It's a thing. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Apparently, I forget what this little marsupial eats the beans, like the fruit, the coffee fruit, and their digestive juice, like the acids, alter the chemistry, and then somebody has the worst job, which is to collect the beans afterward.
Okay.
But nevertheless, I mean, just like so much goes into it, into these different, you know, and then you get to the experts, the roasters. Someone's got to roast it. Someone's got to, you know, the barista, like you mentioned. And I just love the fact that there's so much that goes into making a perfect cup of coffee, or you just scoop some out of a container and you brew it, and you still get a pretty decent cup of coffee. You know, I love that about coffee, and you know, there was a time in college where a friend of mine and I thought about opening a coffee shop. I have a feeling that a lot of guys in the 90s who went to college in the 90s probably had similar aspirations after college. We should open a coffee shop. Thankfully, I didn't follow through, but I do love coffee. I do love the interesting science behind it, because it is science. It's amazing.
Yeah. So let's get into what contributes to your perfect cup of coffee. And by the time we get to the end of this, you probably got to think, oh, well, it's actually kind of subjective. However, again, I just want to encourage you, the more variables you can play with, depending on how you brew, the more you can affect the flavor of your coffee as well. And maybe you'll never taste it the same ever again after this show. Sorry about that. So when you brew your coffee beans, some of the more popular or more common coffee brewing methods, the coffee compounds that I just mentioned make up about 1.2 to 1.5 grams of the coffee that you drink for every 100 grams or milliliters of coffee that you brew. So you're taking out 1.2 to 1.5 grams of actual coffee flavor, and the rest of it is the water that carries it, that carries it through, that ends up in your cup. So this is seen as the sweet spot of coffee flavor. So if your coffee is less than 1.2 grams of these coffee extracts, then it might taste too watery and very dull kind of flavor. And if you go above this, it can be quite harsh and quite bitter. And some people love it a bit more harsh and a bit more bitter. We call it an espresso. You know, we're talking about those little coffee cups. You know, you have a little espresso in the afternoon, just a little pick me up. They usually contain about 8 to 10 grams per 100 grams or 100 milliliters of coffee flavor. So that's why they're quite bitter and quite strong. I actually like a good espresso myself. I I like the hardness of it. It's quite good.
But you gotta roast them differently. Like, that's the difference, is espresso beans are roasted differently.
Yes.
So that's why you can take more out, right?
That's right. Yeah. So you can extract more that way. And the roasting process is really important. And that's why you can buy espresso beans or coffee beans, or depending on how you like it. Where, Dom, I don't know what it's like in Boston, but Victoria, and particularly Melburnians, have the reputation of being Australia's coffee snobs. So they take this very seriously.
That's true.
But, is there any equivalent in Boston, or are you guys pretty chill about this?
It's actually different. So in America, I'd say like the folks in Seattle have the coffee snob label. That's where Starbucks originated.
Okay.
In Boston, we're Dunkies fans, and Dunkies is is the local Dunkin' Donuts. It's the
Yes.
local
Oh,
donut
yes,
shop
yes, yes, yes.
that
Yeah.
has spread everywhere. But I live in a town of 11,000 people. It's a smallish town. It's a little suburb. We have 4 Dunkin' Donuts.
Whoa.
You can see from one to the next. It is an obsession here in the Boston area for that, and it's just cheap coffee shop, Dunkin' donut shop coffee. So we're not snobs, but we do love our coffee. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do love that the shops can see each other. It's like the beacons of Rohan or something. It feels like
you never have to be without your iced Dunkies, for more than 30 seconds.
Oh, thank God for that. Right? Yeah. So Melburnians, Seattle is your destination if you're looking for good coffee. Yeah. People do seriously talk here about when they go overseas. They say, "What's the coffee like where I'm going?" as well. They do want to know to make sure that they get their brew. They don't have that problem if they go to Italy, obviously, but other places they have to ask. Well, yeah. So this ratio of 1.2 to 1.5 grams of flavor out of your coffee beans, the taste of it will be different depending on how you brew. So, for example, are you a pour-over person? Do you like to make a Turkish or Arabic coffee? Do you use an AeroPress, a French press, a siphon, an automatic machine, all the different kinds of ways that you do it? I've tried a few of these. I've actually, someone gave me a Turkish coffee kit.
Same.
Love it. So good. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yep. And this is the full immersion method where the ground coffee goes into the water completely and there's no passing through, and you boil it until it bubbles over so it doesn't explode. But that's a whole other thing altogether. You learn after the first time anyway. Oh, yeah. So they all have a great taste, but the method can change the flavor even of the bean that you use. So, for example, brewing with water as one of the variables, like I said, there's the full immersion of the coffee ground into the water and then boiling it, or there's the different ways that you can pass water through the coffee bean and extract the flavor this way. One of the big differences is the temperature that you use of the water, and also the speed at which it goes through. So the speed and temperature can increase how much flavor you get out of your coffee. However, if the temperature is too high, you can actually extract too much. You can get all the bad things from the coffee bean as well. So you can dissolve some compounds that you don't want as well, which can also affect the flavor. So there's a delicate balance going on there as well. So if you pour water through your coffee, the size of your coffee grinds also matters as well. So when you grind your coffee beans, some of your machines that grind you can change the size. You can be quite powdery. It can be quite coarse. The size of your grind will affect the rate that the water flows through. So a larger grind will mean the water takes a bit longer to get through, and a smaller grind mean quite quickly. So the full immersion method obviously gives you more control because you control how long you boil it for, and how long it's heating up. The water to coffee ratio also matters as it affects your brewing time. So slowing or speeding up the brewing can also affect the flavor that comes out of it. And if you make filter coffee, what I suggest is if you do grind your own beans, try and change the size of your grind and see how it affects the flavor, of the normal process that you go through. Like, for example, I've got an automatic coffee machine. I've just left the grind dead in the middle. Like, it's got a setting from 1 to 10. I've left it in the middle. I'm pretty happy with that. I haven't had the courage to try other methods, but after this episode, I actually feel like trying some different settings now. It's made me feel braver. There are 3 other variables as well that I wanted to talk about very briefly. One is your water chemistry. One is the particle size and distribution that's made by your grinder. And the other is the freshness of the coffee that you purchase off the shelf as well. So water chemistry. Coffee is an acidic beverage, so the acidity of your water can have a big effect on the flavor. If you brew coffee in water using water that contains low levels of calcium and bicarbonate, which is also known as softer water, you'll get a more acidic and more sour kind of flavor or bitter kind of flavor. If you have water which has higher levels of bicarbonate and calcium, which we call hard water, you might get a more chalky flavor, as the extra bicarbonate will now neutralize the flavorsome acids that you are extracting from your coffee. So the recommended level is somewhere between soft and hard water. There you go. So that makes perfect sense. Now, how can you tell the difference with your water that you're using? One suggested experiment is actually to buy mineral water or spring water in a bottle, which tends to be hard water, and make your coffee with that and just see the difference between that and your tap water, and you'll start to get an idea. I did a bit of homework on this, FYI, guys. Melbourne tap water is generally soft, which is good for tea and coffee. Now, when I say soft, I don't mean soft, like as in very soft, but it's sort of in the softer range. So that is good for making coffee. Dom, good news for you as well. Apparently in Boston, your water is moderately hard, which makes it in between the hard and the soft, which is great. So you could probably brew a decent cup at home as well. So
good.
Yeah. I haven't tried your water, but that's what it is. Yeah. And Dom, you might want to know, I found this just popped up as a fact as I was looking at this as well. Your moderately hard water could affect soap lathering a little bit as well. So I'm not sure how long it takes to lather soap in Boston as opposed to Melbourne.
Oh,
but
good. I thought it was just me.
Why are the bubbles coming out? What's going on? Yeah. So there you go. Now, the next one is the particle size distribution. So there are different kinds of coffee grinders. Now, there is the typical blade grinder, and then there is the burr grinder. Now, the burr grinder has like a star-shaped kind of blade, as opposed to the two opposing blades that spin around like a blender or something. So, coffee enthusiasts prefer a burr blender because it is more consistent with the particle sizes that it makes. So, you'll get a more consistent size of if you want small grinds or larger grinds. It will do that for you, as opposed to a blaze grinder, which kind of just gives you different sizes of particles as you grind.
It's like the Hulk; it just smashes everything to
bits.
bits.
Smashes, exactly right. Yeah, it's all about the smash. Exactly right. Yeah. So coffee enthusiasts prefer the burr grinding method. Now, if you have a grinder at home, it will usually have settings. So, like I said, you can adjust the size, to smaller or larger. And again, as the water passes through it, when you make your coffee, it will change the flavor. Some people prefer a more coarse grind, but it can give some of those more negative flavors. Some prefer a finer blend or grind, I should say, because the water passes through quicker. So again, this will just really depend on user preference. The last variable is coffee freshness. So roasted coffee beans contain a high amount of CO2 and other volatile coffee flavor molecules, and over time these will escape the coffee bean, and so it becomes a bit stale, and then there's less flavor and not as good as you want. So apparently cafes, I don't know if this is around the world, but here at least anyway, cafes won't use coffee beans that are more than 4 weeks after their roast date, because it will affect the flavor. And again, in a city full of coffee snobs like this one is, you will go to the cafe that makes the coffee that you like, and if you sense a bit of staleness, you're like, I'm not coming here anymore. So so they know, right? So if you buy coffee beans and grind them at home, you can check the roast date usually on the packet, and you can see when it was roasted, where it was roasted, so how long it's taken to get to you, and so on, and you can check from there. So Dom, do you have Aldi? Have you heard of Aldi stores at all?
We do have Aldi's here. I don't generally go to it, but we do have them around.
Yeah, they're kind of like the low cost kind of supermarket. So they have a lot of things. They don't have everything. So like, for example, to save in our household budget here, we shop at Aldi's and we get everything else from the other supermarkets a bit later. However, interestingly, a lot of people are tending now towards the Aldi coffee beans here. One, because the roast date from roasting to getting to the shelf isn't that long, and the beans are roasted right here in Melbourne. And true. I've spoken to a few coffee snobs and asked them, and they're
it's
like,
called a mirror, Lindsay. It's called a mirror.
That's exactly right. Colleagues, that's right.
I love it.
Kindred spirits, and they've all said Aldi coffee beans, and I tried them, and I was shocked at how great the taste really was, in my automatic machine. So there you go. Now, when you buy your coffee beans, you can prolong the flavor by putting them into an airtight container. And when I bought my machine, it came with a free airtight container which had a date, like the month you can see when it was put in and so on.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so this is coffee snob to the max. So those variables also will affect your coffee flavor. Now, the article that we're using, which will be in the show notes, says really, at the end of the day, the perfect cup of coffee is the one that you make, that you like, and that you enjoy. However, I said, I want to encourage everyone to have a bit of fun and just play with the variables and see what kind of coffee you can make. What do you think, Dom?
Yeah. I think my wife's going to be saying, "Why are you making so much coffee?" And I said, "Science, my dear, science."
Science. All for science. Yep.
Nice.
Lino, how about yourself? Are you going to play with some variables after later on down the track?
My mind is blown, Dom and Lindsay. I just the science behind it. But I do understand now. While we have, what was it called, barista
competitions,
and everything. That's understandable. Now you have to understand the science behind it. And just thinking the judges, what do they do? Do the judges like every sort of coffee? Do they taste it and they go, "That's a perfect"? Or do the contest happen and say you have to make this particular coffee at this specific temperature and everything else and make it perfect? Is that how the contest works? I'm not sure. Yeah,
I think it's a little of both. There's all kinds of
Wow. Look, as long as the coffee is not too watery or too grindy, like you're tasting dirt in a sense. Look, people, I don't say people may like it, but it's perfect as like you said, Lindsay. If you like it as it is, keep it as it is. And if like a Dom, experiment. Why not? Give it a go. You may even try and find something different. Yeah.
All I can say is cheers, everyone. Enjoy your next brew.
Let's Science is brought to you by StarQuest Media and is a fortnightly podcast that brings you the scientific wonders of our universe from a distinctly Catholic point of view. For more from Caroline, Lindsay, and friends, listen to the StarQuest show, Catholics of Oz. Find links from today's show at sqpn.com/science and find the Catholics of Oz at sqpn.com/Oz. Be sure to follow the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you can find podcasts, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. The generous donations of our patrons at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Let's Science and all the shows at StarQuest, which makes our nonprofit mission possible. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Join us next time for more scientific wonders, and thank you for listening to Let's Science on StarQuest. Here's another podcast on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy: The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/secrets.